I will call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education, which was duly noticed on April 5th, 2024, through posting notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin State Statute 1984. For my last time, because I've asked to not be renominated it's been great, but it's busy. It's a busy time with kids. But it's been great. Thank you for trusting me with the position. Before we kick off to the agenda, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Holzman, who has a couple words for Mr. Hannawell.
All right, thank you. I just want to say thank you very much to Commissioner Hannawell for his service in the Board of Education. And we have a small token of our appreciation along with some great memories and know that you'll continue to work and read in our schools. So we look forward to seeing you around. But anytime that an individual gives their time and expertise and passion to the school district, we're grateful. So we just want to take a moment to say thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to turn over to Commissioner Millard for the Pledge of Allegiance introduction.
Thank you, President Hayworth. I would like to remind you, though, you said you have asked not to be nominated. We haven't said we won't. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Edwards, the principal from Van Buren Elementary School. Stephanie has been working in the Janesville School District for 28 years, 15 years as a teacher, and 13 years as Van Buren's principal. Ms. Edwards received her bachelor's degree in elementary education and special education from Southern Illinois University. Stephanie received her master's degree in education administration from UW-Madison. Principal Edwards, who do you have with you this evening?
This evening, I am honored to introduce Max and Henry North. They are new students to Van Buren this year and have already made a very positive mark, and we're very excited that they're a part of our Van Buren family.
I'm Henry.
We'll go for United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item 1.3, consider a motion to adopt the April 9th, 2024 Board of Education agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Arter, seconded by Hannawell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 9-0. Thank you. 1.4, safety message. Commissioner Herda.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I do not want to go back to this morning. Sorry about that. I lost track of time. Good evening. Be a little bit more suitable. My safety message today is a little bit appropriate for today's weather. I'm going to give some warm weather safety reminders to all of you as we are hopefully going to keep this nice weather going in the next couple of days. So as we approach spring/summer months, stay hydrated year-round. Hopefully that hydration is water, not my son's choice, which is Red Bull. So remember, water. This helps prevent colds, lessens fatigues, and helps with allergies. And something that I didn't know is that our body will begin the process of thinning the blood to adjust to the warmer weather. So again, hydration helps with that process. Balance your diet, avoid grease, junk food, and fast food. That's a hard one to do for me. And also watch out for the post-lunch dip, which will make you sleepy in the afternoon. I have experienced that, so my strategy is to make sure that I do all of my hard work in the morning before lunch. So take that as a tip. And again, junk food might taste good, but it's harder to digest and has low nutritional value. And then also remember to dress for the weather. Engineered fabrics and garments can help with comfort on long days when you're out there in the work environment. Thanks.
Item 1.5, student presenters to the board. From Craig High School, Grace Marotta.
Hello, members of the school board. I hope you're all doing well. There are many exciting things happening at Craig this month and in the near future. Craig's prom is April 27th at the Holiday Inn in Janesville. The prom committee has been working hard to plan, and we're all excited to see how the decorations turn out. Senior Day was today, April 9th, where seniors came to Craig for a half day so they were able to place their handprints on the senior mural, pick up caps and gowns, and complete all other tasks required before they can graduate next month. Pre-ACT testing was also today, April 9th, for all Craig freshmen and sophomores to better prepare them to take the ACT in the coming years. FBLA had their state competition in Green Bay yesterday and today, where future business leaders compete in all different categories doing business role plays. Craig girls soccer is playing an away game against Whitewater tonight at 6:45. We wish the Lady Cougs lots of luck. Craig has recently began surveys to choose a staff member of the week each week. The latest winners were Mr. Sweeney and Mr. DeMeyer. We thank all of our amazing staff at Craig for all that they do for us. Craig Spotlighters show choir auditions for the coming year are May 13th through 16th. Statewide Solo Ensemble is April 27th at UW Whitewater. This is an all-day event where students across the state of Wisconsin who earned high scores at the district level solo ensemble come to compete at the state level in solo, duet, trio, and ensembles across all musical fields. We wish all of our music students who are attending from Craig the best of luck. Craig's spring musical, Beauty and the Beast, will have performances May 3rd through 5th. There will be 2 performances Saturday and 1 each on Friday and Sunday. There's an amazing cast, and information regarding ticket sales should be available soon. Please come out and support the music department. Craig's spring band concert will be May 8th at 7 p.m. in the large auditorium. I hope you're all enjoying the nice weather, and thank you for listening.
And up next from Parker, the Addison Riley Lean.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be back. I think I missed last month because of a track meet, so I'm happy to be here today. I would like to apologize beforehand. Recently, my glasses did break, and my mom warned me that I'm 18 now and I have to call the doctor myself. So therefore, I probably won't be getting glasses anytime soon. I can talk to you guys all day, but calling the doctor on my own might be a little bit scary. So, for my announcements to you all, Parker and Craig teamed up to finish as the number 10 school district in the world in the Coding Quest for 2024 programming competition. The Parker-Craig team finished as the number 1 district in the United States. Parker members included Chris Causey, Alex Cooper, Logan Flippin, Kelsey Gunderson, Ryan Hahn, and Dalen Schilling. Craig members included Devin Duong, who finished 23rd in the world individually, Alex Nuansaski, who finished 40th in the world individually, and Noah Sukraj. The Parker Arts Academy will present Shrek the Musical on April 12th through 14th and 19th through the 21st. Don't miss this show that leaves you laughing, singing, and feeling inspired by the magic of theater. 13 Parker choir students auditioned for the WSMA Wisconsin Honors Project Choirs, and the results released this week. 7 students and 1 alternate were selected from the Parker Choir. The Parker Choir hosted the Drake University Choir on April 4th. Dr. Eric Barnman worked with the Parker Choirs, and they all had a great time. Students enrolled in the Art and Science of Plants course with Ms. Johnson have been working very hard to get the Parker greenhouse ready for the spring plant sale. Students are raising a variety of flowers, greenery, herbs, fruits, and vegetables. The dates for the sale are May 3rd, 4th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and the 25th. Money raised at this sale goes back to the Parker FFA to support students attending conferences, leadership opportunities, and field trips. We hope to see you all at the sale. Next, the Robotics Club competed at the first Robotics Regional Seven Rivers in La Crosse over the weekend. The robot team finished 23rd out of 54 teams. 2 weeks ago, they also competed at the first Wisconsin Regional in Milwaukee, where the team finished 46th out of 54 teams, and both events were a wonderful experience for the young team. The Parker PTSA sponsored a spring campus cleanup last Friday, April 5th. A dozen students came in on their day off of school to pick up trash in the school's parking lots and grounds, and also some of the neighboring streets. And last but not least, an update on Parker Athletics. Over the past few weeks, our spring athletes and coaches have remained eager, motivated, and extremely flexible, navigating through our unpredictable Wisconsin weather. Despite all of the reschedules, our athletes have had the opportunity to compete in a few competitions. However, we are hoping that the solar eclipse brings many days of sunshine for the rest of spring. We do have a few additional winter recognitions that have been announced this month. The WBCA announced their basketball academic all-state teams. Congratulations to girls basketball players Harper Brandenburg, Sophie Brown, Aubrey Harwick, Addison Jones, Delaney King, Kaylin Minnick, and Mia Riley. Also congratulations to Nathan Hatch, Jack Cruiser, Gavin Meyer, and Keegan Skripchak for being named academic all-state. In addition, the Wisconsin chapter of the National Football Foundation has named their WFF State Scholar Athlete Team for the 2023 season. We want to congratulate Keegan Skripchak for being named one of the 12 honorees who earned a scholarship for this season. And on the topic of football, Parker's Paul Kim has earned a trip to the WFCA All-Star Football Game. Paul will represent Parker High School at this summer's game before attending UW-Whitewater to play football in the fall. Be on the lookout for donation opportunities as Paul and other All-Star players are fundraising to support Children's Wisconsin Foundation this year. On behalf of Parker Athletics, as always, we want to thank the school district, our school board, and the entire Janesville community for your continued support. That was probably the briefest school board announcements I've had this year, and that's all I have to share with you today. So I look forward to seeing you all next month for, sadly, my last day of presentation for you guys. Thank you.
Item 1.6, citizen comments. We have one. Ty Bullerud. Ty, if you can state your name and address at the podium, please.
Not a problem. I can get that done. You can keep that one, read in between the lines, and if you hear from me again, I'll do something. Okay. Ty Ballrood, 4608 Pendleton Court, Milton, Janesville, Wisconsin. Congratulations. The idea that my dad, I got to watch him, he's a little guinea pig. I thought after the mask we were going to have vaccines optional as well, but that's not the case. And in fact, I found out quite a bit different when I filed to just get simple records. First off, if I wasn't the one that got poisoned by the AIDS vaccine equal to what they call pneumonia vaccine here in the United States. In other countries, it's called malaria vaccine or the AIDS vaccine. In the 90s, you might have heard about it. Clintons had a big thing on it. And anyways, my dad got some of that stuff unbeknown to me. I mean, he does his own medical, and I could tell it. It hit on him on October 28th last year. He went down. You don't get up from that. He's on God's time now. I wish him well every day, best I can, and that's the truth. But what I found out, because I'm good at filing, is that it's not going to leave. They're going to just keep dumping it on kids, and every year, but just a lot, but less than the total dose. So they're little memories that's hooked to their skulls. Okay, so you have skull bone memory that goes to your muscle memories throughout your body. And so you guys, I don't think, educate yourself. Otherwise, I think I would have read about it in the paper. But what I found out was after I got involved, my dad got retargeted. Only not by Medicare, but by the state of Wisconsin and others. As soon as I wanted to opt out, as soon as I talked about, hey, how come he wasn't informed or posted? And the hospitals had to wear the mask for an extra year. So I know that it wasn't that they had an option to opt out. And how come we're not wearing masks, but yet we're still taking the vaccines from Merrick? And there's been all sorts of laws. And then the final question I have is how come we're not seeing any of that American Rescue Act money? What happened to that money? Where's all that money? Where's the trillions every year that's borrowed to go do what? To make the environment better? We're not seeing that. We're not seeing anything like that. Okay? What we're seeing is that kids get to get poisoned, the parents get to be reblamed, and grandparents can't do a damn thing about it. I'll tell you right now, I cut that finger off for my grandkids, any one of them. Okay? And I can't do nothing about it. I'm not, and the fact that we don't have an upfront policy on that is BS. It really is. So my deal is simple. I'm going to file, and I want to file with here, and we're going to figure this out, okay? And then I'm for the school additions, and I'm going to be very pro on that. And we can't get a better builder than J.P. Cullen. It doesn't exist. Okay, it does not exist, and Epic is proof of that. That's money in the bank. If you got J.P. Cullen doing the right projects, and if we get review, I think you should get a committee on review, because they can change in a minute. You want something better? You found something good? You could be involved in that too, and you should be, okay? It's just old news to be targeted so easily with and having kids be the hostage. That kid didn't have to take a vaccine. That kid had to. Well, how's this end? When does it go away? Okay, that's where I'm at. I can't find any end game on that. So I would love to file some paperwork. We're going to get you guys a copy, and we want him to get a copy too over on the stuff. And then, but we want you guys to react on the stuff.
Thank you,
Okay,
Ty.
we want you to react. And our kids not to take that poison anymore.
Thank you, Ty.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks.
All right, consent agenda. Consider a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Commissioner Artery, seconded by Herda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes 9-0. Thank you. A lot of Neola policies in there. All right. 3.1, presentation and consider approval of the 2024-2025 staffing plan. Mr. Garner.
Good evening, Commissioners. Here to present to you the proposed 24-25 staffing plan that you have in front of you. I believe you have a memo summary as well as the slides. Down. There we go. I'd be remiss if I didn't start by saying that I'm here presenting, but this is a conglomeration of several hours, days, of work that we represent in this summary. We have directors. All the directors have been a part of this staffing plan, all of our principals. We have coordinators involved in this, as well as other staff. And of course, Bree Moran, who keeps it all together in a document for us to try to keep track of as we move about throughout the season. So I just want to say thank you. There's way too many names. I'd have to have at least 100 slides to give everybody credit that we can. So that's why I'm saying this is a teamwork effort, and we appreciate all of that. One of our goals this year for our staffing plan were certainly to prioritize our staffing to support our district goals. We wanted to reduce those transition years in grades K2, 6, and 9. Those are the same goals as we had last year. Those are great goals. We want to continue those. We didn't see the reason to change those. In addition to that, we looked at the high school staffing model, giving them a formula and more autonomy then to assign staff as necessary in the sections of classes that they have. So that has gone well. It's very smooth. The second year trying this, and it, like I said, has gone very well. We're very excited about that. One thing that you'll notice, last year we had to reduce positions based on ESSER funding, ESSER 2. This year ESSER 3 goes away, so we also had to account for the ESSER 3 positions that were built into the staffing plan last year. As we go through this, what I'm going to do is a summary of the elementary, middle, and high school, and then we'll do a general overview. But essentially, with the elementary, we share staff in the areas where appropriate. Last week, had you seen us, we were in here trying to barter and schedule our special area teachers, because we have some travelers, and we try to reduce that as much as possible. But when we do have travelers, we have to share and play nice in the sandbox, and so we get the principals together to try to schedule that accordingly and appropriately for all of our staff. This year, you'll notice, you may notice, that we have some staff that are shared between middle and elementary, also elementary and high school, depending on how they travel and the schedules and talents that they have based on the student needs. So just a quick summary of that. And then what you'll see here in the elementary is that we're overall increasing the FTE of 2, and I can get into that detail here in just a second. As we look at the elementary enrollment, we're down 102 projected. That 102 is kind of a mystery number for us. We've done a lot of work looking at our projections for P4J and our current enrollment that we have going up to kindergarten right now in the SDJ. We don't have 100 kids accounted for right now. We're trying to find out where they're at. We anticipate that we will end up getting them enrolled, so we're kind of preparing for that. We don't want to get to August and find out we have to hire 5 new teachers. That's just an estimate, right? 5 new teachers in kindergarten because we have an influx of kindergarten. So we're trying to prepare for that ahead of time. It makes a lot less taxing for our students and certainly our staff as they adjust for our kids. Elementary enrollment, this goes across the schools. 2 things I wanted to point out. You'll see a downward trend for most of the schools. However, at Monroe, you see an increase of 18 kids projected again, and at Washington, you see an increase of about 10 kids. So we're seeing movement, but it's pretty steady enrollment at the elementary. Again, it's in and out, and kindergarten tends to be that variable grade level that we see. Core teachers, these are the sections. So for example, if you look at the 24-25 FTE, Adams at this year has 13 core teachers. That's grade level teachers. Last year, Adams had 13 grade level teachers. And if you go down the list, you'll notice that Harrison's reducing a teacher, a section, Lincoln's reducing a section, but then we also have increases at Washington. The Roosevelt Challenge program, which is a good thing. We have kids enrolling in that program. Monroe and Madison are also increasing. Once again, some of those increases include kindergarten. Usually, I should say that there's 2 kindergarten increases, and we're looking at some increases at the 4th and 5th grade levels, so overall. Here's our special area comparison at the elementary level. Last year, we were at 37. This next year, we're preparing to go to 37.5. That half is going to help us out at AVA. It's also going to help us reduce the traveling for our special area teachers, which again, makes less stress on the staff, easier on the kids, and it's easier for our schedules to work in the schools. Moving on to middle school. Last year, you saw a change in the middle school schedule with the flex period. We'll continue that. We have a focus on reduction of the TPR in 6th grade, as that is a transition year. We try to keep that under 24. We've succeeded in that this year. We share staff like we do at the elementary, as always. One thing that we try to do at the middle and high school is keep staff whole. And what we mean by that is, as you well know, you've heard the market is very difficult right now to try to find people. We're trying to find teachers, quality teachers that want to be with kids. And because of that, it's very difficult for us to post. I mean, we can post anything we want. We'll post a 0.4, 0.5 position, but we're not going to get any takers. So what we're trying to do is keep positions whole, meaning fill that in with supervision or structured time with kids to keep their schedule whole so that we can get people in the buildings. It's much better to have a person there than not. And so we want to post positions as FTE or full-time as much as possible these days. In addition to that, we don't have any enrollment-based layoffs. So the core staff at the middle school, if you look at the houses, the teams, the pods, whatever you call that, those core area grade level teachers remain, that number remains the same. If you notice at the middle school summary, our enrollment is projected to be down 17 kids, but we're also down 2.83 FTE. Now, you might think of that as 2 people. It's not. It's actually time. 2.83 FTE is the time based on the schedule that we have. We've been able to do that, and that's from current staffing levels now compared to what we're proposing for next year. So we will be down 2.83 FTE, the equivalent for next year's staffing at the middle school, and still run smoothly. If you look at the middle school enrollment, there's just the projections. Edison's this year is looking to go down to 591, so 10 or 11 kids. Franklin's also going down, and Marshall is going up, 16 kids. So we have a total enrollment of 1825 at the middle school. Our total FTE, as I said, we're down 2.83 as compared to last year. This is just breaking it down by school. Last year, we were at 119.71 compared to this year, last year's staffing proposal, we proposed 119.71, and that's our current staffing level. And next year now, we're proposing to bring it to 116.88. On to the high school. Am I moving too fast? All right. On to the high school, we do the staffing based on a new TPR formula that Superintendent Holzman implemented last year. That works very well, and we adjust that accordingly. Chris Mendenwald works directly with principals on that staffing formula, meets with them, it seems like relentlessly during this time to try and get that scheduled and to work. And therefore, he's done it. We've done it this year. So we focus on the reduction of TPR in the core 9th grade classes, because again, that's a transition time, so principals are aware of that and try to keep that in line. We share our staff, again, high school sharing with elementary school this year, which is unique, but we also share with the middle school, and the high school share with each other. We keep staff whole, again, by adding duties and supervision. Like I said, it's easier to hire a full-time 1.0 versus a 0.5. And then we do not see currently any enrollment layoffs for certified staff. And overall, we are reducing in the high school by 2.98 FTE. You see a reduction in enrollment there projected at 42, a loss of 42 kids. There's the summary of the enrollment for the high schools. We see Craig down a bit and Parker up a bit. So again, it's just the wave of where people are moving and trading within the district. We have a total enrollment projected at 2725. That's a projection that changes almost on a daily basis, right, as we get kids in and out of the district. Next, we get a little bit more detail-y. As you look at this, these are the sections across the subjects for the high schools. In particular, this one's Craig. So if I look at this slide, we see music was staffed at 3 last year, 3 FTE. We have 3 this year. Health PE, same, 7, we're down to 6. So that's how that works. Any questions on how the sections of the different subjects? We're just giving you the breakdown to see where the enrollment. Again, high school, we go based on signups with kids. So that's why you see ups and downs for the different sections. Yes?
Just a quick question, because I always see this and I never really ask, and I think you've said why. Why do we get fractions of people? Is that part-time or?
So it's, we 1.0 is a full-time FTE.
Right.
Sections, there are a certain amount of sections, so a full-time teacher at the high schools, 6 and 6. So they teach 6 classes, first semester, 6 second semester. And so fractions of that 12 would be the 0.33 or the 0.44, depending on the different sections that they have. And then we add that all up to equal 1.0.
Thank you.
Yep.
Maybe, Carl, if I could add, in some cases, we have more sections that are wanted than we have staff. And so that's where you might hear the term overload, where a teacher will teach one more class each semester or one semester, and that's how you get like a .13. And the
Yes.
reason we use that is really what we're presenting really is a budget. It's the amount of money we're gonna spend on staffing, and that we try to be really precise on, rather than making a 1.0, it's .13. That's why we get to that detail.
Yeah. So if we look at, as Superintendent Holzman was talking about, we look at our additional staffing, and this can change at times. Supervision is where we have teachers either out in the hallways doing that or working directly with kids, supervising kids, structured times like that. We have some staff traveling. We have to account for the travel, and then the overloads, as Mark had mentioned. Those tend to, I don't want to say they tend to change a little bit closer to the start of the school year. Sometimes this number will vary, not very far, but sometimes it'll happen based on life that happens over the summer. Maybe we lose a teacher, or there's a different, we find out we have an influx of kids wanting to take a certain class, so then we add a section. Sometimes that happens, and that's where this number is impacted. Lisa?
I understand that you said that those numbers might be flexible due to life happens, but can you explain to me the major increase in supervision from 23-24 to 24-25, 1.33 to 3.25? That's a big jump.
That is a big jump. Sometimes we account for different things within the schedule. So at the high schools, we look at preparing for what we're looking at, either resignations anticipated at the time of staffing. So what we have to do is build in supervision at the time, and this is what we're presenting, and that might change. If in fact someone resigns, then that supervision will go back down to the 1.33. But at the time that we created this plan, that's what we were anticipating. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just quick clarification, you probably said this already, and I just didn't quite catch it. So for example, the 1.36 overload for the 24-25, is that what you know you're going to need yet, like right now? Or is this just sort of a placeholder?
So this is what we know as of right now, as of when we created this, based on the schedule, the scheduling team over at Craig. This is what they're telling us is going to happen. We are going to have a total of 1.36 sections of overload. So the equivalent of 1.36.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, that can change based on a lot of different factors. These are the breakdown of Parker sections. At the time of staffing here, you'll see ups and downs again, and these may change depending again on what happens over the summer, but typically these stay fairly the same. But again, they impact the overloads and the different pieces. So we see the supervision again is almost at 3 for 24-25. We see travel at 0, and then the overloads right now are currently at 1.46. For our charter schools, we're seeing an increase in enrollment projected, with staffing down slightly. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but with AVA in there, it does throw our numbers a little bit. You can't go apples to apples with AVA. And so there's where you're going to see the decrease in staffing. Our charter principals always provide input. We meet with them and ask for their requests in for staffing. We continue then, we had run a survey and are certainly we're working with the CISA right now for 612 at-risk model, and that there's more to come with that, and staffing at this time is not impacted by this process. So there's the charter enrollment currently is projected for the 24-25 school year. You'll notice that Rock River is up, Rock University is pretty stable, and AVA is projected to be up at this time. So we're seeing an increase of 95 kids. And as I said, with AVA staffing, you can't compare apples to apples, so we're down a 0.5 at AVA. P4J remains the same. Right now, I talked to Angela Lynch this morning and people in her office. Our enrollment projections are a little bit ahead. They're about 11 kids ahead of where they were at the same time last year. So we'll see where P4J ends up. It's kind of early yet. That's the staffing recommendation for P4J. There's no changes. We're going to remain the same staffing levels for P4J. Paras too. Here, this slide in particular is the paraprofessional staffing at the elementary level. That is a formula that we use at 2.25 minutes per student. That's a formula we've used for a long time. We find that that seems to work. And the decreases you see are because of student enrollment decreases. So every 200 kids, they get, so every student, they get 2.25 minutes of time, and then we equal that out then to the number of paras based on the different schedules that we have. There's the middle school and high school. You're going to see bigger fluctuations, obviously because they have more kids. You'll notice that overall our staffing has increased. That's based on the needs of our kids in the area of special education and the needs of our students as it relates to English learners. You may know them as ELL students that need services. We call that EL now. We have an increase, a projected increase of 7.0 in special education. The number of special education students has increased. I should say students who need special education materials and service, I should say, has increased a great deal. So we're looking at, Kim, quote me if I'm wrong or tell me if I'm wrong, 130 more kids-ish? 100 more kids right now. So that's where you're seeing the increase in need. Title is going down. Oh, Craig, sorry.
So with the special ed, and I just want to make sure I understood what I heard.
Yes.
We're staffing for the needs of the students, or are we staffing for, I'll say, our staffing limitations? Because I know the funding.
Yes.
So are we really staffing for the needs of the students?
We're staffing based on what the needs we have with the students coming in, right? Based on a previously created CPR ratio, much like we do for our enrollment-driven staffing plan.
So the count, not necessarily the needs.
Well, so, and I'll leave this to Kim if you'd like. They analyze what needs are coming to us, and we have to staff according to that. And I can let Kim explain a little bit more.
So right now, we're sitting at 1,432 students who receive special education services, and that doesn't include evaluations we have in progress, anything that would come through during the summer. Last year at this time, we were at 1,335 students who received special education services. The 2,618 that you see on the screen there talks about the number of services students receive. So for example, a student may have a specific learning disability, but also receive speech and language services, so they're getting 2 services. We may have a student with an intellectual disability, also get occupational therapy, physical therapy, so that would be 3 services. So that's why that number is larger than the number of students that receive services. And when we break that out, where we're looking at those additional staff is in early childhood, we're seeing a huge influx of students coming out of birth to 3 with some pretty significant needs. Speech and language, we're looking at increasing 2 FTE there. Self-contained emotional behavioral disabilities, an increase of 1, and 3 cross-categorical services. And then we're staying the same across the other areas of services, such as therapies and deaf and hard of hearing in those areas.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, we'll go back the other way. There we go. Title. We're down 1 teacher in title. As you know, that's a federally funded program. Certain schools qualify for title funding based on the district metric, and you'll notice that we are down 1 FTE this next year projected, and down also about 10 hours for para-professional time in title for next year. This is what I talked about for EL staffing. It's a 2.0 FTE increase. In talking with Julie DeCook, we're seeing an increased number of students needing services at the secondary levels. We're also seeing a number of kids that are coming to us without education. And so we're working very hard to meet the needs of those students as they come to us at different levels, but different than what we've seen in the past. So overall, we go through all those different categories. You'll notice the current FTE is at 753.55. The proposed is at 757.74 with an approximate change, as I say, 4.19 at this time, and that's our proposed. Keep in mind that we have a whole other section of staffing that is not enrollment driven. That the list is here. It's not all inclusive, but we tried to think of as many as we could on this list: school counselors, deans, program coordinators, school psychs, social workers, you name it. Okay. Right now, we're recommending this for your approval. It's accurate as of today, but as you know, things change and grow as we go from April to August. So just keep that in mind for tonight.
Motion for approval? Second.
Motion made by Kevin, seconded by Jim. I just, question, I see a correlation between a reduction in Craig Fayed and Easton graduating. So, I'm sure he takes everything he can there. Anyway, can you talk to why, and I also love that the increase for Rock River. Thank you for doing what you can to, to help with that. I know the wait list was long and it's such a strong serving school that I was hoping that we could get more in there. The travel is 0 for Parker, almost 3 for Craig. Why, is that the Elevate or is it?
The majority of that is part of the
Okay.
the Elevate program, the traveling between that, the downtown
Yeah.
and Craig.
Yeah.
We do have, also we have some traveling specialists in the area of art, looking at traveling back
Oh.
to the elementary. So that's a unique
Oh.
situation that we talked about.
So an art teacher will do high school and
And elementary.
Interesting. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion on that one? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That passes 9-0. Good work, thanks.
Thank you.
3.2, presentation and consider approval of activities director positions at the high schools. Mr. McLaury and Holzman.
All right, thank you very much. Jim and I are going to share some feedback here with you. I've had a couple opportunities to conversate or at least engage in some discussions with commissioners, so I appreciate your feedback. I know that all of you have hopefully 3 documents in your packet, and you've received those and taken a look at those. What we're going to do tonight is I'm going to talk a little bit about what the proposal is. Jim's going to talk a little bit about why, and I'm going to talk about how, and then take questions and answers and try to make sure you understand clearly what we're proposing. So I'll start with the what, and what we're trying to do is increase some opportunities for our kids and for our staff, our coaches, and what we're asking to do is transition our current part-time athletic director, part-time teacher, to a full-time athletic director, assistant principal role. What that will do is that will move us from a pseudo administrator / teacher to someone who is going to be dedicated their full time to not just athletics, but also extracurriculars, so the other clubs and activities that currently exist at our secondary schools or at our high schools. What we're looking for is to continue to provide a partnership and a leadership development. We want them to be part of our high school administrative team, but we also know that their key focus will be working with our students, with our coaches, with our advisors, with our parents, and with our staff to make sure that we're providing services throughout the system in a unique and opportunistic way. I'm going to give an opportunity for Jim to kind of talk to you specifically about why, and then I'll come back and talk to you a little bit about the how.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. When we started doing our work a couple of years ago, our strategic planning for the athletic department, really one of the good exercises is you go outside and you look in, and you look at what other districts are doing. You try to find best practices. Always been our goal in my time here to try to find best practices. One of the things that we found out as we started looking into this is the jobs that our current athletic directors do has changed. In fact, the job that every athletic director does across the land has changed in the last 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, relying much more on emotional and social mental needs of our kids, as well as the staff who lead those kids. Another thing is becoming instructional leaders, becoming compliance officers, becoming people that lead professional development, lead evaluation, and people that create succession plans. You know, we are one of the school districts, like many, that every school year, about 25% of our coaches have never coached before. And so do we just hope they do a good job? No, we have to create a plan that supports them to be at their best, to get better, to grow, and then to evaluate them. So we have plans like this, and we're ready to implement them. We just need the structure to be able to do such a thing. Especially now that coaches spend about, for every hour that a teacher spends with kiddos, a coach spends about 3 hours. And we have such an opportunity to influence kids through the positions of extracurriculars and athletics. We want to make sure we're giving our coaches and club advisors the best possible opportunity to be that difference maker for our kids. So this gives us an opportunity right now, some of our whys, to change the structure of these positions. It allows us to align these positions as instructional leaders, as assistant principals are, so very much in alignment there. It allows us to be intentional. We have an opportunity as a district that a lot of districts don't take advantage of, that is to be intentional about what you're providing students in the area of education-based athletics and clubs and activities. We have an opportunity right now to increase our numbers of students participating, giving our kids a pathway to connectedness with an adult, with other students, giving kids an opportunity to pursue their passions. This is another part of our study is that when we looked at our administrative teams at the high school, we got extremely talented administrative teams at the high school level, but they are stretched very thin, like most folks in education. We want to be able to give our staff and our students a platform, a pathway through an activities department at their school to have access to start new clubs, to join an existing one, to increase the visibility and connectedness among the student body. So those are some of our whys. In our study as well, we are finding that large high schools, much like ours, this is a best practice, taking an athletic director position and really making it an activities director and then bringing it to a full administrative position as well. So we're seeing that in well over 80% of the large high schools across the land as well. Our strategic plan, I'm really excited about it. And I'll wrap this up here. Our strategic plan so far, we've been able to align two sports much better with our middle school programs and our youth programs. It's the sport of cross country and the sport of football. And we are tackling basketball from the youth level all the way to high school. That's going to be our next thing coming up here in the next few months. We thank you to this group in supporting us and bringing on lacrosse. And we're looking for other opportunities to grow, not just athletics, but activities. We need to have the leadership in place to be able to bring those and have those be the best possible experience for our kids. We are a school district that champions a coaching internship program. We have and we will have a second-to-none evaluation and training process for our coaches through Coach Academy. And we are also a school district that has started a coach mentorship program. These three things right there is not what the typical school district does. It's what the next level high-performing district does, these kind of things, because they're all foundational. So the things I just mentioned, very foundational, but at the end of the day, why are we doing this? We want to increase academic achievement. We want our kids to be emotionally, physically, and mentally healthy. We want them to connect with an adult. And regardless of the success of the play, of the musical, of the math competition, we want our student athletes, we want all of our students to be ready for life after high school. So these are our whys. Thank you.
So thank you. Obviously, we see some passion there. I'm going to kind of wrap up the how we're going to go about doing it, what the proposal will be, and then take questions and try to provide some feedback and answers. So the how, when we talk about shifting our current part-time part-time teachers and part-time athletic directors to full-time. Right now, our athletic directors teach 3 classes in the day, and then they have athletic director responsibilities the rest of the time. With that, they have an athletic director stipend, and they have other duties, I guess, that they kind of work through. Currently, what we're asking our athletic directors to do is really be pseudo-administrators. They work with the students, they work with the staff, they give them PD, but they really don't have the level of autonomy or leadership that we're looking for. We want to elevate that. We want to promote 2 individuals who are currently doing that right now. In addition to that, we want to take the teaching role away from those folks and give them full-time opportunities to work throughout the school day and evening to provide oversight, feedback, and support to all those who are engaging in activities after school. You can see that we have some great momentum in the School District of Janesville. When you hear about some of the things that are happening in our middle schools and high schools, the number of kids who are participating, and the continued success of some of our programs. With that comes from some of the leadership that Jim is doing, Mr. McClowery, but also it's from the work that we have our ADs, and we want to continue that. And by keeping the same model, I don't think we can continue that moving forward. So when we talk a little bit about the how, we talk about how we're going to go about doing that. We've looked at the resources that we need, and I put some numbers in your document. Again, we use approximately $178,000, $180,000 is what we currently pay our folks who are doing that role right now, not individually, but combined, because we're talking about 2 individuals. We want to be a little careful about identifying individuals there. What we would recommend is they would begin at the beginning of a assistant principal activities director role. That compensation would be in the $105,000 range. So we would be looking at potentially an increased contribution from the school district of about $16,000 for each building. That's not each individual, that's just the total comp piece. If you take what 210 is to minus the 178, you get 32, you divide it by 2, you get 16. So that's not one person gets more than the other. They both would receive the same as they have. The other how is, it moves us currently, we have 191 days in our athletic director on teachers' contracts. They have 191 days. So anything we ask them to do outside that 191 days, we pay them on a timesheet, or we ask them to come in on their side. This gives them a full year, so they're going to be able to work all year. We know that, I think many of our sports starts in August, so their job will be here. They'll be able to have vacation and the same benefits as what our administrators would be, but they would be here. We also know that there's an expectation that a lot of events are on Saturdays, they're on Tuesday late night evenings, so we want to have some flexibility to give them some flex time within their day to make sure that if they have an event that's going to be till 10 o'clock at night, maybe they don't come in till 10 o'clock that morning. We're not asking them that maybe a little later, I guess, if we looked at the hours there, but we're trying to be a little flexible in that. Again, the idea of what we want to do is to invest in these positions to promote leadership and provide more opportunities for our students, more professional development for our staff and coaches, and more feedback and connectiveness for our families so that we can promote co-curricular activities. So I will pause there. That's at least 7 minutes of talking, and take questions or comments or things that you'd like to know.
Thank you. So, do we have an idea, so they're going to be responsible for all athletics in the building and all activities in the building? right? Okay, is it like, will they have to, will there be a percentage of each? Does it naturally just break down in a certain way, or?
Well, it's a little bit of work in progress, so it'll be 100% of their time. I mean, right now, they do 100% of just athletics.
I see.
Okay? Right now, our principals and assistant principals, for the most part, do activities.
Uh-huh.
And so there will be a handoff, so some of the activities, I'll give you an example of a simple one, right? Student council. We have a student council advisor, that student council advisor has a practice, and we have student council members, and they may have a budget, and they kind of work on that. But now, if they have a question about travel or something they want to do differently, the activities director is going to be the go-to, not the assistant principal, the principal. Okay? So how that will work out, it might not be 100% on year one, because there are things that they just need, again, we got to be able to hand this off. And so our high school assistant principals and principals have been doing this for a period of time, and so they're going to need to hand that off, and so they'll do that as it goes. Whereas in athletics, it's a little simpler because we've got seasons, right? So we've got fall, winter, spring. When you're talking about, for example, maybe one of the performing arts play, it's all year. So then now they'll have a target person who will be able to go to specifically if they're talking about travel, budget, student enrollment, if there's any fees, how those look, and then be able to have, I think, also really good conversations about how they might be able to elevate that program. What haven't they been thinking? Because right now, those areas are really in a management. It's not the top of the mind for our APs and principals to be working specifically. They're managing that, which they're doing fine, and they're doing everything they can. Now we're looking for some opportunities to lead, eat, and grow, and I think we'll get some help. So that'll be how we do it.
Yeah, you mentioned that this would increase opportunities, and so I guess, can you give me like a specific way that it might increase an opportunity for a student or?
So I think first and foremost, having access to an adult who is there all day as opposed to part of the day, right, is going to provide opportunities. And then working with those individuals, one is promoting what opportunities we have. So sometimes, I think, we send it out in messages, we do all kinds of things. If we have a person connected with that, staff members, students, families will be able to connect with kids to make sure, hey, did you know that we have? And we'll have somebody to be able to champion that, to help provide that. In addition to that, there may be opportunities that we're currently doing that we have a significant enrollment piece, but because we don't have maybe the staff in place, or we need to add staff, kids start to trickle away because there just isn't enough time for me to do that. And so we'll be able to champion the resources. The example might be maybe there's a club that has 56 kids and one advisor, and we just can't. Well, maybe we need to add an additional advisor. But right now, it's hard for all of our people with the work that we're asking them to do in the academic world at the high school to manage some of that. So that's how we would see that moving forward.
Okay. And these people would be able to evaluate coaches and
Yeah.
club.
Yeah, actually, we're asking them,
advisors?
to have a 51 license, either have it or go get it. And a 51 license is a principal license, so we want them, they currently do evaluate the building, the coaches, but we also want them to have the ability that if the building principal team needs to be away, they could also be in charge, hence the 51. That's not gonna be their primary role, but they wanna be part of that leadership team.
I see. And, let's see here. Okay, I think that's all my questions for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So, they won't have any direct reports that I can see.
So, that's a great question. I believe, and I'd have to maybe look at Chris, do the high school AP secretaries directly report to them now? Or is that indirect?
High school building staff.
Yeah.
We do their evaluation.
Okay, so the answer to that would be the head coaches are all direct reports to the athletic directors at the high school, at the building level, and I'd look back and go, is that correct? Yes, so that would be their direct reports, not the building secretary.
So like the baseball coach, varsity baseball coach. is
The
gonna
head
report to
coaches
the-
at all 24 sports
All the
would,
head coaches
would be,
report to
would
the
be reporting to the
activities-
athletic director,
To the activities director.
to the activities
Okay,
director,
okay.
yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. principal license, so I saw that too. Do either of the candidates have them right now?
One does and one does not, and both of them, the one that does not is in the process of would get that license, yes.
Figuring out how to,
Yes.
okay. Is there, I assume there was probably, since it was already offered, there's a time frame on when it needs to be done?
So, yeah, I mean, they need to, well, assuming the board approves that, then they would need to have that done within 2 years.
Okay. And then there would be no hourly stipend.
Correct.
Okay.
They would be salaried individuals, so that
Okay.
their time is their time.
Yeah, I guess I was just, because they were salaried before too, but they got that hourly something
Yeah,
you
so,
mentioned?
yeah, because in the current contract, they work a teaching, so when this, which is 191 days. When the year is over, then we need to pay them for the hours they work
Oh,
out after the year is
was
over.
our-
So that's how we paid them an hourly wage. So on day 192,
Yes,
because the baseball team is
Yes.
still playing and school's out, we need athletic directors to do the work, so that eliminates. And we spent a lot of time talking about whether we should have I'm trying to think of what the number was. We have a different contract for our high school, our middle school assistant principals, which is 219. We talked
yeah.
about that model, and then we felt like, well, if they got to 219, and I've had this experience before, in May 21st, then you're paying hourly till the end of the year anyway. And so this just provides us with the overall, and when we have, some of those sports coming in the first week of August, we need leadership all year.
okay. Sounds like it might be too early to know, but does the role save money elsewhere because their leadership will take that responsibility off of somebody else?
So my initial response would be, this is an investment, and those investment probably would be, and again, I'm estimating the cost is a $32,000 investment. The time that we would potentially be saving, in some cases, maybe assistant principal or principal
Okay.
time,
Okay.
that's, they're just working.
Yeah,
So we're not gonna
okay.
save anything there. And, when I think about the feedback, we have 25% turnover or new coaches, like there isn't gonna be, potentially you get some more longevity and people feel better about of being here, but I don't think there's any, I can't think of right now a projected savings, for that.
But more time, that'd be just.
Yes.
Does Mr. McLaury's role change at all?
I think he has more access to the leadership district-wide as we look at, what we're asking them to do. I don't see his role changing in terms of what the expectation would be from myself or from our building principals. He will still supervise the building, like those will be his direct reports. However, he will work hand in hand with our building principals, because they will be working in that building on a regular basis.
Okay, the last two things I have is, I would love to see a 30, 60, 90 when you have it, on these roles, because I think that's really important for a couple reasons, because I hope that it's going to include a data dump, like how many kids do we have in clubs, how many do we have in each athletic, at what school, and I also think that would uncover inconsistencies that these roles would shore up and, put some structure around. So I wanna see a 30, 60, 90. And I would also like to see the KPIs that these are gonna be measured against, because reading in, like, how do you position the goals and objectives? Number one is increase student participation and then expand the offering of extracurriculars. So that's where my point is, like, yeah, if you have the data dump at the start, you know what your starting point is, and then like a quarterly report out in Mr. McLaury's, regularly scheduled, generally is quarterly. Like, how are we progressing and is it effective, and what are some of the wins that we've had? That'd be really great, but I think that'd be really important. Just keep eyes on how is it coming together with a 30, 60, 90.
Right, I think just to be clear, we would start if board approved this on July 1.
Right.
So we'd be targeting out from that point moving forward, and we'd finish what we have currently. Yes, we would absolutely be able to do that.
Okay.
And we do have that baseline data.
Oh, good.
For our starting point, and we're developing our measurables for, what is our expected increase in participation based on percentages. And may I finish that question you had asked about? So how do we get more kids to be involved? So there's a few things. One is the consistency of the people that are leading them, staying in those roles, and those people on their own growth arc. If you have a sport, or an activity where the leadership continually rolls over, it's really hard to develop momentum, develop a consistent roster, develop a connection. And so we're going to pour into our club leaders and our coaches. We want them to stay. For me, success is, let's go from 25.7% turnover, let's go down to 21, let's go down to 15, let's go down to 9, let's go down to 5, and we will see more kids, a larger number of kids staying involved longer. And this is not just the high school piece, it's how we're pouring into our middle school programs as well, and making that connection, that conduit to participation from the middle school to the high school. So that's one piece, and then the second piece is, how do you get people involved with something? You make the pathway very understandable. How do you start a club? How do you get involved with a club? Teachers, okay, how do you start a club? How do you get involved? Typically, people don't know the answer. Not everybody always has the time and energy to ask. We plan to be very proactive about, this is what we do at Janesville, this is what we do at our high schools, this is how you get involved. So we expect these to be very proactive, very visible positions in the daily operation of our school, in all athletics and activities, special events, homecoming, you name it, performances, those things. So, thank you.
Go ahead.
So you just sparked another question. So if a student wants to form a club, I'm sure there's a process for that.
Yes.
Then would they go directly to the athletics or the activities director? I mean, where I taught, the kids went and hunting for a sponsor among the staff.
Right,
You
right.
know, and they just went to
Yeah.
one after another until somebody said yes. Does the activities director, say, well, let me see if I can find somebody for you, or, how's this work?
Right, good, great question. I think that things like this sometimes have a very organic grassroots approach. Here's the process to start a new club, and when we establish what that is, here's what it looks like. We need to do a great job of educating our teachers of what that looks like, so they can be encouragers for students, and then we need to continue to champion that process for our students as well. But yeah, my expectation is that our activities directors would be people to work to try to connect dots. Okay, you want to start a club, kiddo? Here's what it looks like. Here's the 3 things that need to happen between now and the next time we meet. And maybe I know of, there's 5 new teachers that are looking to get plugged in as an advisor to something. Here's 2 people you can go talk to. So I think that's some of the grassroots things that I think have to happen, but we have to make the process very easy. And so we plan to have that ready. So to Commissioner Hayworth, to your question, how does my role change? Well, I've been an activities director the last 20 years at the 4 places before here. And so I think one of my roles change now is, how do we bring that alignment and those foundations and those systems in place so it can be an easy mechanism for everybody at the building level. So I think that's partly how my job is going to continue to grow and evolve in supporting the athletic and activities directors.
I think that's important because the 2 candidates have been so focused on athletics, now grasping activities and, thinking strategically about that will take your leadership, I'm sure, as well, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And in our questions all the time, the way we operate as an administrative team with the athletic directors, including the middle school athletic directors, is, what does success look like? What is our win? What is our improvement? And that's constantly at the forefront. And we're very data driven. So most of the decisions we make are very data driven. So I do appreciate the alignment that you were
Yeah.
talking about.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. No, sorry,
No,
Kathy.
I'm still going here.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, though. Okay, so we have hopefully more clubs, because the more, you're right, the more kids are involved, the more they're likely to do better in school and graduate, and they're generally happier. And so I'm all for that. But, the creation of new clubs creates, stipends, and there's a salary schedule and stuff. Does this person come to you for recommendations as to where this new advisor should be placed, or do they make the decision, or?
Right. So, those decisions are made in concert with Human Resources Department, the various levels. So like we just went through an exercise with coaches stipends for this year, all the different levels. And that is an exercise that we see happening over the next few months, making adjustments on the club and activity sides to stipends. And we're not just associating dollar values, but how many, and what's the process of bringing these people into the fold. So we will have a process in place so the building administrators know exactly what level of autonomy they have, what do they need to ask for.
Okay,
So,
thank you. I'm still going, I got one more. You mentioned middle school athletic directors. Oh, did you want to ask it? Okay. So for Liz and I, does this position then oversee or work with the middle school athletic directors as well? Or are we looking at potentially seeing activities directors in the middle schools eventually?
right. So thank you for that question. So my mode of operation is we work as a team. So the 5 athletic directors and myself, we work consistently, regularly, and there's alignment. Our data retreats are together. We're trying to create all the areas of alignment that are possible. Right now, the data is not telling us that we need to shift from the athletic director model that we currently have at the middle school level. We have already introduced systems to try to make their jobs more efficient, and creating connections with the youth organizations has really helped them as well to do their job, to communicate information, to make sure there's alignment, we're not competing against each other. So those are all the things that are in play. The relationship with the high school athletic directors and the middle school ones is we always start here. I mean, these are our 5 things when we meet. It's always what's the alignment from middle school to high school? How does this align? Because if it doesn't align, and it's supposed to align, we need to find a way to make it align. So that's how football, cross country, and now the basketball conversations are happening. So I don't see those changing right now. That data's not suggesting that's a change for the near future.
I don't really have questions because I talked with Superintendent Holzman yesterday and I got my questions answered. But as a parent with active kids in the district, this really excites me. I know how involved our high schools are. There's so much happening. It's kind of, it's mind-numbing. When you go to, for example, Craig High School for one event that you think like, oh, we're gonna be the people there, and like every parking lot is filled because there's so many things going on. So there's a lot of stuff to manage. And I think the more support that we can provide our athletics and activities, that's more support for our students. And that's a win for our district. So I'm excited to see this move forward. I am really eager. And one of the things I want to point out, I love athletics and I love activities. And what I like about this is that it is giving more development opportunities for our activities, which sometimes get outshadowed by how strong our focus on athletics can be. Not necessarily district, but just societally. And they are equally as important. So this is a win, and I'm excited to see the development. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary, so I could see. I mean, I will be seeing this progression hopefully over my time here as a parent. Thanks for trying some new things here.
Nice job, Superintendent Holzman and Athletic Director McLaury. And my comment isn't so much directed on the presentation. Outstanding, I understand it. But and it's kind of unfortunate, having just gone through the election season and the questions that come our way. And this is one that I sit with, and, you know, we just had the presentation on the enrollment. It was nice, linear, and I understand that completely. But then, you know, we end, and it was a quick flip, and it's not the presentation, just all of the positions that wasn't a part of that. So then I wrestle with, so the next $32,000 to spend, is this the spot that I think we should spend it? And I think about the decisions I've been a part of. All individual decisions made 100% sense individually, and I'll go with the Dean of Students as one. Made sense, assuming that the position actually does what was intended by the board and what was presented to us. If that's taken place, great. I'm not so sure that it is. Then I go on and I look at the other positions, and it is difficult to take this particular proposal recommendation aside from what's happening everywhere else. So then if it's like we keep adding, this is another ad, and I know we've adjusted the budget, but it's still an ad, as opposed to, did we tighten up to make sure that what we're doing overall is better overall? So I'm wrestling with this because I like the idea, but I don't understand quite how it fits in the larger scheme of everything that we do. I understand the connection to the students. So I said, this isn't a downside, but I'm wrestling with, you know, what does a yes mean for this, for me, for us, versus is this really what we want to do now? And so I just wanted to more so make the comment, if not necessarily to you two, to my fellow board members, as we wrestle with many things. And we have a whole lot of things to wrestle with. So when we're talking primarily, you know, what we need to do from referendum, and we're adding, does this make sense? That is just what I'm struggling with for me personally, so thank you.
May I comment on that? May I comment on your comment? That be all right? So you and I are absolutely, Commissioner Ardrey, you and I are very much aligned on this. One-offs just don't work. If you look back at the past several years, how many times have we done a one-off on something? So the things we're doing here are foundational to our strategic plan. And so, yeah, any one thing by itself doesn't make sense, but there's a bigger picture here. So the ability to add lacrosse, the ability to see what it looks like for us to take on girls hockey. Okay, that's a possibility. We need to have leadership there. To be able to get 25%, the 25% coach turnover, that's a serious, real number that impacts all of our programs, and that does cost money every time we have to go through a process of hiring new coaches, time, money, and quite frankly, you invest in somebody. If you invested just a little bit more, perhaps they would be more successful, feel more supported, and stay longer. So absolutely. But this is how I flip this. It's not just looking at it from an athletic and activities point of view, but looking at it from an administrative point of view at the building level. So let's just keep the athletics and activities outside of it. Most districts, many districts that are our size, they have the buildings our size, the structure at the high school level is a head principal, 2 to 3 assistant principals, a dean of students, and an athletic or activities director. And so we've been working with 2 assistant principals, a dean, a principal, and an athletic director. So really essentially only 3 administrators. And what that does is it creates a situation where if it is gifted and wonderful as our APs are, you only have so much energy, you only have so much time, and there's things that you have to make a choice every day, triage if you will. And what this allows us to do is to not have to triage as much. We'll be very intentional about, here's the opportunities to bring more kids into the fold, to have a system in place that allows kids to be more successful. The thing that has changed, the game changer for us, has been the emotional health of our kids. Now is the time that we need to absolutely be very intentional about bringing our kids into the fold and connecting through school-based activities. Because the activities outside of the school district just are not, do not have education-based components to it. So I guess that's the big picture I'm looking at. If this was just, hey, let's just add some ADs and here we go. Absolutely, it's not a fit, but that's how I'm looking at it. So I feel very much aligned. The things that I bring to the table here are part of a bigger picture in the direction that we're trying to go. So I'm in agreement, and I always wrestle with the same thing. It's one of those questions we ask: how does it add to our strategic plan? So thank you.
Absolutely understood it. So my comments was understanding everything you said. So it isn't the case I didn't understand that. I did. But it still doesn't change what I'm wrestling with is now that, excuse me, is now the best time to make a change when and personally, I don't know the whole picture. There were 7 categories of positions that we don't know if we need to add a school counselor somewhere. We don't know if we need to have even more focused reading specialists and innovation specialist. So those are the kinds of things that I'm like, okay, student athletes, the key piece is student. And if the best part is focusing on the student side, I understand we're gonna miss opportunities. I understand everything what was being proposed here, but it still wrestle with is now the best time.
So when you made the comment that it was an investment of $32,000, this was part of the conversation we had when we decided to add your position as a central AD. We had discussions, the board wrestled with investing in your position, so there was comparable data looked amongst other school districts our size to do a best practice of having a central AD. That was hard for the board. I remember those discussions. And one thing that I wrestle with is we invested in your position, but knowing that the athletic directors would still teach. Well, now I wrestle with this because I see that they're not going to be teaching. And so when you think about the comment that you made, Mark, that they each taught 3 classes, so 3 times 2 is 6. So was that number a part of that $32,000 investment, or was that rolled into the staffing plan that somebody else is gonna teach those 6 courses?
So the 32,000 is a general number. It's the difference between what the proposed salary would be with what their take-home salary currently is. If that makes sense. So if we take the 2 salaries, and again, we lump them together because we want to talk too specific about one human. We lump those together. That's the model. The staffing plan, the formula that we gave to the high school principals was not respective or irrespective of the high school ADs teaching or not. They proposed how many sections they need in each one of those areas. If in fact the board approves that, there could be some adjustments. There probably will be some adjustments because there's placeholders in there right now for the human beings who would teach, go back to teach if the board doesn't approve it. And if in fact the board does approve it, there will be, we won't hold those spaces. So right now, the staffing plan has the places in there because we don't have it approved. So, if you want a practical answer, the district has the opportunity to be more efficient if we move in the direction of the athletic directors moving forward. So if we move forward with activities directors, we have the ability to be more efficient in our overall staffing plan, but we have places aligned in case the board doesn't approve that.
Okay, thank you.
So, I have to say that one thing I'd never liked about that the way we had things set up at the individual schools where they were athletic directors and teachers. Because I was like, how do you do both? I know you're teaching 3 classes and not 6, but I always wondered if the focus, because athletics is incredibly demanding as well, and there's a lot more, you talk about your daily class load, well, there's a lot more kids involved in athletics that you're dealing with, and, and how do you take if you've got 30 kids in your 3 classes, 90 kids plus Lord knows how many kids are involved in athletics, it made me wonder, how are they able to divide their time between the two? So in a way, I do like this because it is more streamlined, and I do think that, that when, I just think that it's very hard to split your energy between those two things. And so I think that it will make things more efficient in the long run. I also think that having a procedure delineated well and articulated well, and a process delineated and everything like that will not only improve the participation in things, but also is a more efficient model. I don't know if I couldn't tell you how that translates in dollars and cents, but a well-run building is able then to do other things. So, thanks.
All good discussion. Is there a motion? John?
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Hannawell, seconded by Commissioner Paul. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I was just waiting to see if there was going to be a motion or not.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you, John. Class of 74 rocks. And congratulations to Liz and Greg, and I see Sue, new elected board members here. Congratulations and thank you for running. And congratulations again to Allison, Educator of the Year, was recognized today at the Forward Janesville Luncheon. Yes. And she said something during her speech that I think is a great bumper sticker for what we're looking for. She said, and correct me wrong, investing in education is economic development. I thought that was just, and other people were all abuzz about what you said there, so congratulations again. So I'll get back on the topic.
Okay.
Thank you.
All good stuff.
Well, first of all, I am so grateful and excited that we're talking athletics. I mean, athletics.
And activity.
And athletics. And so historically, it took us about 3 years to get to the point where the board approved a full-time AD. It took a while. That was a long process. And I think, Jim, you've been here not quite 2 years yet, and we've seen fabulous things come through. I mean, there's your report that you gave us in November is just full of wonderful things we do, and I'll just mention 3. What we've invested and done for middle school athletics has just been wonderful. Adding lacrosse. And then the work that you've spearheaded, aligning our coaches with professional development and, bringing that all together. That was, I think, our vision, is we wanted somebody, and you've done that. You've knocked it out of the park with all those people you've worked with. However, this position, what Greg Ardrey said was on the top of my list of things to consider. Over time, we have like $140 million budget, and we could say, well, geez, 32,000 is some very tiny percentage of that. But one point I wanted to emphasize and kind of repeat what Greg said is, as a board member, we're under a lot of I can't only speak for myself. I feel like I'm under a lot of pressure right now, talking about referendums in multi-million-dollar discussions. And in my opinion, adding a new position when I'm gonna ask the public to potentially approve an operating referendum that just maintains status quo, seems contrary to me, in my opinion. I asked, and Jim said that they have the data available for directly relating to clubs. I've asked for a list of clubs. I've asked for who the advisors are and how they're compensated and how many children participate, but I don't know that. I don't know what that is. So that leaves me, again, how can I make a decision on activities where I don't even know what I'm talking about? I haven't heard, in my 20 years, I haven't had any negative feedback about how our club's activities function. So this is a tough one for me too, as much as I support co-curricular activities, in particular athletics. So, and this is just a silly example, but and thank you, Mark, for taking time for me. We probably spent 3 hours on this, if, you know. And, so we looked at the lists of clubs, and one of them was Cornhole Club at Craig, which is fine. You know, cornhole is you toss the beanbag and well, it just happened to be, I bumped into that guy that was the advisor, and he told me he hadn't been doing that for 2 or 3 years. Just hadn't told anybody about it. So then again, that leads me to believe, well, just what are we talking about? How many clubs do we have that are really active? And I know we have a current policy that guides activities in clubs. But there's just too much that I don't know. And creating a new position when I'm gonna ask people to give us some money to maintain status quo. So I'll just leave it at that. I cannot support this position at this time. I just can't do it. Well, thanks.
Do you want to delay? Propose a delay?
Well, I think there's a motion on the floor, but let me think about it.
I'm just wondering if it might be worth postponing a decision to let more information come out or PPC evaluated, or if that would be helpful and get the information you requested. I mean, is there a rush? Is there a, you know, because I don't think this went through PPC as a new role, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's never, I would rather pause than have no, but we also have staffing plans and things that we have to do, so if the board approves, then in some cases, we need to find 2 new head coaches, right? And we could wait, but that's something we need to do. There's also, they're currently educators in our system, so if they're not gonna be educators, we have to make sure that those spots are covered. And if they are educators, we might make sure they're covering those. And so our building principals are waiting on that. To Kevin's point, I think one of the rationales of having activities directors is so that we can shore some of those things up that, we just looked on the website and pulled something off. That's what we can do. Like, someone's not owning that right now. I'm asking them to make sure that, today's testing day. And, I could ask Chris to come up here and talk about what it looks like to make sure your building is running efficiently, what DPI asks you. Like, that's the stuff that they're focusing on right now. And so we could ask another lens. So I get it, like, it's a difficult time, and the board has to kind of balance all of those pieces. And I would also say, I'll respect whatever decision the board makes, but I'm not bringing something forward that I don't think that we've vetted and think it's what's best for this district. Now, we just moved forward a staffing plan that had, 800 FTE, and we did absolutely our best to look at each and every space to make sure that we are using our resources the best. And we rarely want to say it's this or that. We try not to do that, because what we're trying to do is this whole picture of pieces. But I think you can acknowledge that in my short time here, anytime we've been able to reduce an administrative space, or at least save some money, we've done it. And so we don't think lightly about that, and I think it's a great investment in that short term. It doesn't mean it's better than or less than, but I do think it's a great investment, and I don't know that what information I can have if in terms of, is it the right time or not? I guess we could come back next year or the year after, but if the board doesn't feel good about it, we'll stop and we'll keep doing what we've been doing. I don't like that, but that's what we'll do. I mean, that's part of the plan too.
Can I just add a comment? Do you mind?
Go ahead.
I think, you know how no one had the answer for you? Maybe in a year there would be an answer about the activities, because someone would actually be able to take the time to focus on those. But right now, our principals, our APs, I don't even know how they do it, and show up with a smile. I heard a foreign exchange student just told me today that she was in a conversation and one of them was speaking Spanish, and then a moment later he was speaking Portuguese with her and then went back to speaking English. So those are the kinds of skills our APs are dealing with. I just realized we've not received any. What have our principals shared about how this would support them better? Because we're talking about it. Have you received feedback from them? I'm guessing you did, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but
sure.
perhaps
Absolutely.
you could share some of that, because maybe we could see how, if they have feedback that you've heard, it might alleviate some of our concerns, because then we would really understand what their thoughts are on that process. And I apologize if I'm putting anyone on the spot, but I would think
No,
that's valid.
Absolutely. We would not be moving this forward if we have not had conversations with our building principals. So we've talked to them about what that looks like. We've gotten feedback. I could ask Chris to speak on that. That's not sure. But, again, we've been involved in this conversation probably since July of last year in terms of what that looks like and how we might do it. And the reason we're bringing it now is because, again, and maybe I could do it differently, it's part of the staffing. So we thought, let's just bring it together with the staffing plan. This is the date we did staffing. This is the date we'll bring this here. I don't know if you feel like you need me to look over and say, Principal, you want to respond, but can you give us 30 seconds of what your thoughts are? Thank you. That's fine.
No, that's fine. What I would say is, over the course of, the 13 years I've been the principal at Parker, all of our jobs have become increasingly more complicated. And we've also, in order to get kids involved and involved at high levels, we need additional help to make that happen. We have 60% free and reduced lunch at Parker. So just to make sure kids are getting paperwork turned in, that they're maintaining eligibility, that they're understanding the processes that they need to do to participate in those things, we need more people to help make that happen. We've added an arts academy. There's a lot of oversight that needs to be done with that. I've taken on the oversight of that. I'm happy to do it because I believe it's the right thing for kids. It would be wonderful to have an additional set of hands to help manage those pieces. We're very fortunate to have lots of opportunities for kids in the School District of Janesville. I would not want to take any of those opportunities away. Anytime we can add more assistance, organization, and oversight, we will get a better product for our kids. That's really what is most important. We want to make every opportunity maximized and viable, and having additional help to do that allows me and my assistant principals to evaluate teachers, to work with PLCs, to be in classrooms, to supervise the halls, to do things like that, that we should be doing and we are doing. So definitely a need.
Thank you. Commissioner Paul, thank you for your comment, but I just wanted to respond to and I understand what you're saying, that this new position, geez, we could finally get a list, right? So that's even more alarming to me now, because I've been asking for this information before this proposal was presented to us. It's been a process for numbers of years. We were trying to discover our clubs and how they're compensated and why. This isn't the first time this information has been asked for. But anyway, I just wanted to, I wasn't going to, but I will. The other thing that was concerning to me, that we had already offered these administrative positions to 2 people without even approving the position first. And why wouldn't we post this position? So that was another factor that made me go, this isn't, in my opinion, how we normally would do business for creating a new administrative position. Thank you.
I think Commissioner Paul made a very valid point earlier when she said, we, not just Janesville, but we are an athletically focused society. I have no problem with that. Myself and my 3 brothers were all 3-sport athletes in high school. I raised my 2 sons and a daughter, sports, 3 sports, all of them. I look at my grandkids now who are just getting into high school level, middle school, and when I talk to them about their involvement, I find myself encouraging them to be part of the Parker Performing Academy, the different activities that are not necessarily athletically oriented, because I believe over the course of my life, I've learned that the skill base that you're going to get from those activities, not that I didn't get them in the athletics, but are so much more important. And I don't believe, and I think this was Commissioner Paul's point, that we have as much focus on the activities as we do athletics. And that's not just Janesville. I mean, all one has to do is look at Sunday or Monday's ratings for the NCAA women's championship. I mean, yes, we have some specific things that came into play here, but again, the numbers are just tremendous as to athletes, you know, and I think if we can, with this position, start giving some of our children the focus that our athletes get, as Superintendent Holtzman said, it's a great investment. I can appreciate, you know, the fact that we probably have, what do I want to say, defunct clubs that are walking around, nobody knows who, you know, or even if they exist, you know, but if we had somebody in those positions, maybe those kids could be encouraged to try other things. I just think that there's a lot of value here, and I appreciate the legwork that's been done to bring this position up to this point. So that's why I made the motion, and I think the longer we put it off, and granted, I understand I'm a lame duck here, but we're just basically, again, saying, well, yeah, it's important, but we can find other things, so, thank you.
It's a hard one, for sure, a lot of good points made. I'm sorry, Carl, gosh, sorry.
Yeah, I kind of want to say a couple of words. I understand the concern Kevin has. It's a very valid concern. Greg has brought up the thought of thinking about it. We haven't had all the answers maybe we want, but a couple things hit to me. Number one, education isn't yesterday. It's today and tomorrow. Educational systems and models have changed over the years tremendously. And someone has actually taken the time to look at comparable schools, a variety of things, and is this where we need to go? And I think there's some of the answers. I went through here, you did, Kevin, you went through it, when we did all the massive cuts, combining all the different jobs and putting them. And now over time, through some very thoughtfulness of our administration, and several administrations have done this, they've been able to bring these back into some of the jobs, some better than it was. A tremendous amount of work went into working that. I understand the concern of a referendum, because we need to keep moving forward. Our needs today will be even more tomorrow, next year, and on. And we're gonna have to evolve with that. And we're gonna have to make sure that when we evolve, we do it right. And I think our administration's done a heck of a job. Are they perfect? Probably not, but they aren't telling us and that. But I think they're doing a good job at what I see. And that's why I enjoy my job on the school board. But I also enjoy the people bringing up questions. We need those questions. We need them a lot. It's important. But I'm going to support this. I've thought of many things. There is one thing I might accept, is a 30-day pause while we get more chance as individuals to think of it. Kevin gets his questions maybe answered. I think that's good. It's not bad, type of thing. I could go with that. But for right now, if that is not brought up, and there is a procedure for doing that, pausing it till forward to a given time, a specific time, I could go along with it. But at this point, unless that's brought up, I'm going to support it fully. And I'm very grateful that we have an administration that thinks ahead, not just in athletics, but in other positions too. I think that's important. Thank you. I'll shut up.
I'd like to call the question.
Read my mind.
Okay.
All right, yeah, good discussion, good discussion. All right, roll call vote, yep, sure.
Does everyone understand the motion on the board? Everyone understands the motion? Okay. Ardrey?
No.
Damershausen?
Yes.
Hanawal?
Yes.
Herda?
No.
Millard?
Yes.
Murray?
No.
Myers?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Hayworth?
Yes, I will.
The vote passes 6-3.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't know of every part of it, but it is what it is. FBG. FBG committee reports. Mr. Ardrey.
Wow, not 9-0, that was kind of good. Anyway, so,
Mark's like, yeah, it was great.
keep telling him, no, we don't always have to be 9-0. So committee, we are, I'll just do the highlights because we have much of my committee to go through workshop tonight, but just a few of the highlights, significant highlights. I'm not sure if there was a recording available. One of the things, the district usage over the last 10 years, we reviewed it. Couple highlights. We can directly see the upgrades of the HVAC and window upgrades, the reduced energy usage. And I'll say first and foremost, it's great that we're capturing this information. Many places, they are not looking at this. And Julie Yerke did an outstanding job presenting it. I strongly suggest that it is one that we present at the state convention because I think we can tell a great story. Having the history from when we started to where we are, it's a great story. Not just a story, but it shows the savings that we spend elsewhere, that we've saved it legitimately. And you can see that through the utility bills. The other item to point to is, as we do look at, long-range planning, what we've done, really preparing for any amount of debt. And the focus of the efforts we've had as we think of various steps we've taken to reduce the debt in a wise manner to lessen the overall tax impact for our community, which was done really well. We are monitoring indoor air quality, and I'm not gonna, that was a super technical presentation, and it would be difficult to get into those numbers, but the kind of the key piece is, as we see, when we don't have conditioned air, it could absolutely affect the performance of the students within the buildings. It's not a harmful level, but it could absolutely affect them. So it is just one more thing to factor in. As we talk budget development, a couple items that were pointed out. The 4.2 base wage increase, which amounts to about a 3% increase for certified staff. And additionally, as we annually go through the review from a healthcare standpoint, this was a potential spot that we could have had, I'll say, runaway increases. And it appears that we will be able to at least limit the increase to 12% or less, hopefully. Then I think the last point, and it's one group that actually doesn't get enough pub. And I say pub, and it is the custodial operations. They're the heart of much of what we do. That's what we see. And often the men and women are working the evenings to prepare the buildings for the morning for their students and staff to come through the door. And it's just one. Dave Farwell just ran across some of the things that he's done in the position, focusing on with vendors. And one particular effort, we were able to reduce costs from a vendor by $21,000. So some significant work's being done, and I just wanted to highlight that and say kudos to Farwell and his leadership and the overall custodial staff.
Thank you, sir. All right. Liz, PPC update.
My turn, thank you. Well, we had our meeting last week, Monday. Shout out to Commissioner Myers, who started the meeting for me, as I had a delay, a school district related delay. We started out the meeting last week with a truly informative and meaningful presentation by Carrie Kulinski on our district McKinney-Vento and homeless youth services programming. McKinney-Vento is the national, it's a legislature homeless assistance act. So when you see that, that's what that's related to. If you haven't already taken the time, I'm always telling you to watch our presentations, but truly I would suggest that you do so, because I can't cover everything that she talked about in this presentation, and it's very meaningful work. The numbers of the homeless youth in our district are up about 100 from last year. That's significant, and the rationale of that increase is due to our lack of low-income housing availability. It's sad when we hear this in our community from a housing standpoint. That impacts our students and it impacts their learning. It's important for us to realize so that we can find ways to work with our community, our business world in different ways, and in hopes that we can create a better future and more affordable housing for our students. Just something for us to think about, because it's bigger than any individual student and that just the problems that exist. So the number as of last week for our student population experiencing homelessness is 514. Let that sink in. That's a lot of human beings, a lot of babies dealing with problems that none of us are dealing with. It's a lot. New this year for services is the addition of the opportunity for students to ride buses for free. And Ms. Kalinsky stated that this was a godsend for our students. So kudos to those who worked to get this to happen because it's making a big impact. Currently, we also have 136 Spanish-speaking McKinney-Vento students. So that places additional challenges to make sure that we have services for those students. I want to point out, and it was brought up at the meeting, but Ms. Kalinsky is going to be a recipient in May for the YWCA Women of Distinction. And I think it's important for us to recognize that because that's related to the work that she's doing in our district and for our communities. That's pretty awesome. We're really fortunate to have her. Speaking about other award winners, following Ms. Kalinsky, we also had an update from Dr. DeGraff. And I don't know if you know, we heard this already, but she is an award winner too, and she received an award from Forward Janesville today. So, man, we're filled with some pretty awesome people. Congratulations to both of these amazing professionals in our district. Dr. DeGraff did a wonderful presentation, the update, further development of the Wisconsin Reading Corps program in our district. Last year we launched with 4 schools and we had an update last year, but I really like that we're layering the programs, we're learning more about them as they expand each year. So the AmeriCorps program members provide K-3 students with supplemental reading practices so they can become successful readers. This program is a one-on-one tutoring program to intervene with students at risk of not reading proficiently by the end of grade 3. We started with 4 schools, and this year we've updated to 9 schools, and we're going to continue to expand that. Hopefully, if funding is in alignment. There's some funding from a state level that was a little tricky. Dr. DeGraff talked about that because this is funded in a different manner. And I'm not wording that great. So if you have more questions about that, reach out to Dr. DeGraff later. But what I really want to say is one of the reasons why this program is really important for our district is it does align with our district goals and Act 20. So the work that we're doing there is in alignment with all of the other work we're doing. All volunteers have extensive training and follow a script as they're working with students. And at the very end of our presentation, we heard from Jamie Brown and Scott Garner a brief update on employee benefits. And one of the things we learned is that they were anticipating a 10% overall increase for insurance rates, but we're hearing it's going to be closer to 12%, which is very frustrating, but this is all due to, or part of it, medical loss ratio. And keep in mind that the rate caps that we had on Mercy was one, those are no longer offered or happening. The initial plans that did come to us, which is why we don't have more information right now, they've been in negotiations, the initial plans were too high, so they were sent back, and the brokers are further negotiating those for us. So I don't have more on that, but we will be seeing more on May 14th, so get excited about that, okay? As you saw in the consent agenda, we had a long list of policies to review, and those have all been approved. So if you need more information, look at those on your own time. Our next meeting will be the first Monday in May at 4:30, and we just had our planning session for that meeting yesterday. But I do want to say thank you to everyone who has served on PPC and worked with PPC for this last year. I have loved it. I hope that I get to continue my work with PPC when assignments take place soon. Hint, hint. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Future meetings, dates and times, and agenda board requests. Can I just do the board request thing real quick? I just found this in my bag, the Rock County Fury sponsoring. Do you have that one? That Lisa and Kevin turned in? Okay. Is it, it's assigned? Yes. Okay. Thank you. And then you have the one that Kathy and Carl submitted for a presentation, I interpret that right, a presentation on drug countermeasures, essentially, in our schools.
I hope it's got more than that, but it's fine.
Kind of what's in
We'll work
place right
together
now.
on it.
Okay.
I apologize for not being.
That's okay, that's all right, okay, thank you.
Future meeting dates and times. Our next Board of Education meeting will be on Tuesday, April 23rd at 6 PM here at the Educational Services Center. That will be when our new board member, Susan Jensen, joins us officially. And the Finance Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting is currently on a to-be-determined basis after we get our new committees assigned. And as Commissioner Paul said, the PPC committee will meet on Monday, May 6th at 4:30 here at the Educational Services Center.
Thank you. All right, with that, we are adjourned.